Back to Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Nothing but truth.
On AFR Talk.
Welcome back. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. I'm not trying to bum you out. I'm not trying to bum you out. But if you think there's a little problem with this, if this is no big deal, then I just humbly submit, this is a huge deal. This is a very big deal. It's going to affect us. It's going to affect our children. And what we've done is we said, oh, he's going on Tonight Show. And we have exposed the press and just how in the tank they are for President Obama. I got that. They're carrying the water. Now, there's got to be another side. There's got to be another side to bring you the truth. You get it here. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth on AFR Talk. You get it at AFR Talk. You get it from a Christian worldview, grounded in absolute truth. So when we speak of these things, some people say, well, you know what? I just think you like to pick on Obama. I think you've just got a problem. I even get the sore loser of the election. Look, if you can't get beyond the R and the D and figure out just how detrimental it is to make your scale of justice based on party affiliation rather than the law, rather than what's right, moral and true, if you can't get beyond that, you're done. What am I going to say to you? Obama, right or wrong, I'm with Obama. It doesn't matter. Whatever he says, I'm going to go. You're going to ignore the lies. You're going to ignore the persecution. Oh, speaking of persecution, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth proudly on AFR Talk. Top of the hour, we're going to be speaking to Buzz Jacobs, Benghazi 9/11. And speaking of persecution, Jay Leno asked about homosexuals that were being persecuted in Russia. And the president had this to say. Roll it.
I've been very clear that when it comes to universal rights, when it comes to people's basic freedoms, that whether you are discriminating on the basis of race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation, you are violating the basic morality that I think should transcend every country. And I have no patience for countries that try to treat gays or lesbians or transgender persons in ways that intimidate them or are harmful to them.
Okay. Now, we can agree on the fact that we don't want to persecute homosexuals. We don't like it. We expose it. Talk about Iran hanging homosexuals from cranes. Whole thing. When there are what I would describe as homo bashing, any kind of incident like that, we don't want hate crimes to be part of it because we don't want to make one crime over another to get in the head because we know where that would lead to. But we want the crime punished, and the person doing it better pay a very, very strong and heavy, high price for that behavior. Period. It's disgusting. And while I'm talking about this, when we see the Westborough Baptist Church and their hate, we're disgusted by that. Absolutely disgusted by it. With that in mind, if he's talking about discrimination, does that mean that we have to change the definition of marriage? I want to make this clear because it goes into, okay, now we're in other countries persecuting people because of their homosexuality. You come to America, and go into America. And what does discrimination mean? That you don't recognize gender? You don't recognize the institution of marriage? So I want you to know where I'm coming from, because I don't believe we need to change the definition of marriage, or should change the definition of marriage. And it's not because I hate people that happen to practice homosexuality. No, I don't. And it is further, it is because marriage is between a man and a woman. Genders are different. In my religion, which is Christianity, I believe it is a designed institution, and Scripture tells us, by God. And when I say I believe, because there are some people who don't believe. I believe it's the absolute truth, but I'm just referencing that. Sometimes I get emails, why do you have to say I believe? It's the truth, Crane. I know it's the truth. I'm making a point that if discrimination means that I have to license sin and promote it with tax dollars, or change the definition of the fundamental institution in our country of family and deny genders, well, then I guess I'm discriminating under that code. Just want to make it clear. The president continued about persecution and human rights. Roll it.
Now, what's happening in Russia is not unique. When I traveled to Africa, there were some countries that are doing a lot of good things for their people, who we're working with and helping on development issues, but in some cases have persecuted gays and lesbians. And it makes for some uncomfortable press conferences sometimes. But one of the things that I think is very important for me to speak out on is making sure that people are treated fairly and justly, because that's what we stand for, and I believe that that's a precept that's not unique to America. That's something that should apply everywhere.
Well, it should apply everywhere, but let's talk about persecution just a bit here, Mr. President. Should people be persecuted for their political beliefs? They have been under your administration. Should we ignore the greatest persecution taking place in the world today, which is the persecution of Christians by Muslims? You have, and it has a butcher's bill. You not only have, you are embracing organizations that commit these types of heinous acts. So you tell me about persecution, and I think about a Tea Party. I think about people that are merely exercising their right to free speech. But the president also has this idea that, well, I could speak to this, missing the greater picture, not disagreeing in the sense of what he is saying and understanding that we don't want to see governments persecute, quote unquote, homosexuals. I'm saying, of all the persecution in the world, can you at least identify the greatest amount of persecution? Because it is connected, by the way, the war that we are in. And if you want to talk about religious beliefs and forcing religious organizations to support and pay for practices that violate their faith, I think you need to look at your own HHS mandate, sir. Out of touch, completely out of touch. And whether you agree or disagree with certain policies, certainly you would recognize that Crane Durham, I'm not making this stuff up. I also fault the mainstream media for not covering this. Let's go to cut number 6. President speaking to Snowden and Russia's embrace, granting him asylum, the NSA leaker. Roll it.
Well, we don't know yet exactly what he did, other than what he said on the internet, and it's important for me not to prejudge something.
Gotcha.
Hopefully, at some point, he'll go to trial, and he will have a lawyer and due process, and we can make those decisions.
Spectator here. One, you're not going to prejudge Snowden, but you're going to be prejudging Zimmerman to the point of allowing your Justice Department to work with race hustlers using our tax dollars to fund protest, an organization, organized protest against that. You won't jump in here? The man has exposed classified information that puts lives at risk. You're the commander-in-chief, and you don't want to prejudge? I'm speechless. It's stunning. President also, and we won't have time for it right now, went on to talk about Trayvon Martin and the discussion. When we see President Obama interviewed by Bret Baier and people say Bret Baier was tough on him, Bret Baier was holding him accountable to the things that he had said way back. We have had sit-downs with Hillary. What difference does it make? Clinton. And we still have a press corps that seemingly doesn't recognize the importance of 4 Americans murdered and being lied about it, and the person that was put out to lie about it got a promotion, which is a big number 1 to each and every American that cares about national security and cares about our troops. Further, we have persecution because of political beliefs and deception openly. More and more information comes out, the worse it gets, and yet a press corps that is not sitting out, camping out on the doorstep of the people involved and asking questions day in and day out. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. We return with Buzz Jacobs, Benghazi 9/11. Stay tuned for American Family News, onenewsnow.com, AFR Talk.